Are you there, Michael?
I'm here. Just looking to see if anyone from the Dean of Students, Amory, is here. Okay. I'm looking for someone from the counseling office.
Um,
Don't see Thomas yet, but. We got a fair number of people here.
are we hearable, but to everybody, students now?
I think everyone can hear us. I'm going to start here in a minute, so maybe give a minute or two for people to show up, but
You'll hit the recording button. Or it's maybe it's Todd. Are you recording?
Yes.
excellent.
Tom's
Get
here.
a background with the EC building in it. I don't have one of those. So.
It's the only one I can find, so.
I
don't see Tom here yet.
Okay, well, he's third in line, and maybe someone else from the counseling center may have come in his stead. I'm not sure about that. If anyone from the counseling center is here, please let me know through chat or whatever. Anyway, I think we should go ahead and get started. I want to welcome everybody to Fall 2020, the Graduate Student Colloquium. And of course, today we're talking about graduate student well-being informational seminars we're having. And the agenda is up on the screen right now. Just a couple of opening remarks, an introduction from Bruce, our department head, and some informational stuff from the Dean of Students office, from Anne-Marie Morgan, and then the Counseling Center with Tom Miebach. I want to go over the graduate student climate survey that we did this spring, and then a little bit about that, and then we'll have a graduate panel, and we'll have a few questions that will be asked by Corey Snyder, the facilitator, and you can see the members of that panel listed here. And then we'll have some time for some questions and answers if you need to. If you have questions for any of the folks that will be speaking during their time, please put it into the chat, and we will try to accommodate any questions you might have after each person speaks a little bit. Also remember that we'll be taking attendance of this, so we'll take a snapshot at some point of folks that are here. And there's also this new requirement to write a short paragraph regarding what you liked about 3 of the seminars that you will have attended this semester. Right now there are 4 on the calendar, but we expect to have a couple more showing up here before long. And you can submit those via Compass within a week of that seminar taking place. So you should be able to submit your paragraphs on Compass for that. So I don't want to take up any more time, so why don't I go ahead and let Bruce introduce this, and then we will keep moving on from there. So Bruce, and let me know if you need me to take this off the screen.
You can leave it on the screen.
All right.
So thank you. Pleased to meet the students, or welcome new graduate students, and welcome continuing graduate students back to campus. Welcome to the Colloquium series. I think we have some great speakers lined up this semester from various disciplines, but this first Colloquium, we're really concentrating on graduate student wellness. It's really important for the department. It's important for me. The relationships you have with your advisors and other graduate students is often a very kind of a personal thing. Advisors can have strong power over students, just like your parents would do if you're little children. There could be a lot of stress, and a big part of this seminar is to let you know there's resources beyond your group. And so reach out if you have any problems, and talk with your friends, but talk with Michael Oelze and other advisors or the campus level, we're here to help. We realize you're not machines. We're not machines. And this is a tough time with COVID-19. There's lots of challenges, lots of uncertainty, but we'll get through this together. And you're all special. You're all very special compared to the general population. Sometimes we get here and there's so much competition, but we're really well beyond what's out there in the rest of the world. And there's a big world beyond campus. So we shouldn't lose perspective about this is just part of life, going through this graduate school, and just we want to keep the big picture in mind. And we want you to stay healthy, get exercise every day. Don't always ride the buses, especially these days. It's probably not so healthy to ride the buses. So you should be walking, biking, take good care of yourself, read a book, just take some time to yourself to think. And that's all I want to say. And I look forward to meeting you in person more in the future. But next we have the Dean of Students, Anne Marie Morgan. Anne?
All right, Anne.
Great, thank you. And I'm gonna keep an eye on my time. I think I was given about 10 minutes, so I'm going to pay close attention and try to leave a little bit of time for some questions. So welcome everyone, and to echo what has already been said, please know that we encourage you, we support you in prioritizing your health and well-being. I think that with the pressures of graduate school and with your program and research and coursework, it really can feel extremely overwhelming. For those of you who are maybe just starting here at Illinois in these unprecedented times, when we're all already a little more stressed and a little more under pressure than even just a quote unquote normal year, this can be a really difficult transition. Transitions can be difficult anyway, but certainly in these circumstances, it can be extremely difficult. We're hearing from students in different quadrants of the university. Many folks are feeling really isolated. And so know that if that is something that you have experienced or do experience down the road, that you are not alone. The Office of the Dean of Students is probably one of the best ways to describe us in the Student Assistant Center of things, is we're generalists. We have sort of tentacles all across campus. We have connections with folks all across campus. And so as you may have questions or concerns that either you don't feel are appropriate to discuss with an advisor or someone in your department, or you aren't comfortable having those conversations with your advisor or folks in your department, know that we are happy to help you in the Office of the Dean of Students. We are accessible via email, via phone. We will set up Zoom meetings with folks as needed. We continue to be accessible to students during business hours. You can give us a call. We've got a dean who can respond to questions. You can make an appointment if there's something that you want to dig into a little bit more. But know that we're available and that we can help connect you to appropriate resources, be that units or individuals who can offer you the kind of support that you might need. I also want to give a shout out to a very valuable colleague in the graduate college, and that is Associate Dean Alexis Thompson. And she is another great resource, especially as it might come to navigating some of the waters in your department. If you're having some difficulty, if you're having some conflict that might be generating some, stress or mental health struggles, please know that she too is a great resource, and we can help get you connected to her and vice versa. We work with her a great deal in a lot of different ways, so we can easily kind of funnel you through appropriate routes to get where you're trying to go. Certainly the counseling center and will speak here in a bit about their services. Know that all campus resources remain operational during this time. I'll be honest, it fills me with a little bit of trepidation to realize that I can't just walk downstairs to my counseling center colleagues and be able to consult with them, but I'm able to consult with them in other ways. And so the same is true for you. While it's no longer necessarily an option to walk into various campus offices right now and be seen and ask some questions, we are all still available via phone and email. And so please do not hesitate to reach out to us. Sometimes we play a simple role of being a listening ear and a sounding board for students to try to discuss and try to identify what is the issue that that I'm struggling with right now and what are the resources available to me. Other students that we've worked with have a very specific goal and outcome that they're trying to get to, and so we can help plot the path to hopefully arrive at that particular outcome. Just so that you know, certainly if you get to some point throughout at any point in the semester where you feel like, you know what, I just am not able because of my health, be that a medical issue or a mental health issue, I just don't know that I can complete the semester. Know that there are options available to you to do a withdrawal, either through your department or through the medical withdrawal process. And there also is a pathway to request a leave of absence through the graduate college. It seems a little weird at the beginning of a semester to talk about withdrawal and leaves of absence, but trust me, for some students, it's the best decision they've ever made to take a time out, to attend to the health issues that are really at the top of things that need to be addressed, feel better, get to be 100% and feel good and be ready to jump into academics with both feet. So it's not an admission of failure. It's not an admission of defeat by any stretch. I would argue it certainly is a position of strength to recognize this is what I need to be successful. I'm going to utilize my resources, do what I need to do, and then continue forward towards my goal. So that brings us to about 6.5 minutes of my 10-minute allotted time, and want to just kind of throw out if folks have any questions or if there's a particular topic or a resource that folks want to know about. I'm happy to respond to that at this time.
Please put a question in the chat if you have one for Anne-Marie Morgan. While we're waiting for that, I have a particular question actually, and that is, you know, you talked about an individual maybe recognizing that they might need a break, but oftentimes what we might see around us is we're in research groups, and you might see a student or a fellow graduate student in your group who may have isolated themselves and may not be doing very well, you think, and you're not exactly sure what to do. Is there a way to report this? Is there a way to help this person? What should a graduate student do if they see one of their fellow graduate students may be in this sort of state?
Excellent question. Thank you for that, and oversight on my part to in addressing that. But please know, yes, if you have a peer, a friend, a colleague who you recognize may be having a difficult time, maybe you want to try to talk to them about it, but you're not sure how, know that the Office of the Dean of Students, certainly the Counseling Center, are resources where we can consult with you about some steps potentially that you can take. Some good one-liners to kind of start a conversation, to express your concern and to encourage your peer to seek some assistance. Over and above that, the Office of the Dean of Students, our Student Assistance Center Community of Care website does have an online referral form. So if you have some concerns about a friend, we always encourage students to, if you to alert someone that I have some concerns and I want to refer you to the Office of Dean of Students, I'm going to let them know about you and they'll reach out, or you can do so without doing that. But we receive referrals all the time about students who are having difficulty, and we send an outreach that say, hey, we understand you might be having a difficult time. We're here. Give us a call, make an appointment. We're happy to speak with you. And so know that that option exists. I do see in the chat here, there's a question about taking a break and how that might impact your visa status. What I would say for sure is I defer to ISSS to get into the weeds to talk about the specifics of any particular situation. But what I can tell you is that we have had situations in the past where a student maybe midway through a semester has realized that they're dealing with some health issues. They need to withdraw from the semester. And so I know that there is a pathway to be able to get approved for what's called a medically reduced course load, and that can be reduced all the way to 0. And so in certain circumstances, certain students can be approved for a reduced course load to 0 credit hours, which allows them to maintain their student visa status while not taking courses for a period of time, so as to be able to seek assistance.
Excellent. Oh, looks like there's another question there too. Oh, well, that's a thank you. So yes, perfect. Thank you. All right, if there are no other questions, we'll move on to our next speaker here. And that is Tom Miebach from the Counseling Center. Tom, I think I saw you here.
I'm here.
All right. Do you need to share anything on the screen or?
No, actually, I'm joined today with one of my colleagues, Dr. Patricia Ricketts, and she serves as one of the liaisons to the College of Engineering. So I'll let her begin and then I'll say a few things after that.
Hi, I hope that everyone can hear me. Yes? We are a comprehensive counseling center, and Tom and I are going to address our confidential clinical services today. And Tom will talk about our crisis management and consultation services. But in general, I think it's important for students to know we are open Monday through Friday. All our services are virtual at this time. We are open from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., although we do have a couple of evening groups. Our phone line's open at 7:50 a.m. in the morning, so students can generally call in and be seen that same day, or at least speak to a counselor if they're in distress. We offer brief follow-up individual appointments, and for longer-term options, we offer community referrals and our therapy groups programs. And we have extensive therapy groups. So we have special topic groups such as anxiety or mindfulness. We offer a drop-in group for expressive arts, along with general therapy groups. And we have some groups that are specific to graduate students. We have 2 older student groups, and one of those runs in an evening from 5 to 6:30. We also have a graduate women's group. And you can be in a group for as long as you're an enrolled student. So I encourage someone who's interested in counseling to also take a look at our group offering at our website, because that has all our groups and their times and the descriptions. But that can be a great way to get support while you're in graduate school. We also offer psychoeducational workshops, and you do not have to be a client at the center to participate in those. And that includes Perfectionism, which is a 3-series workshop, which helps students learn how to work with their perfectionism so it doesn't interfere with their student academic progress. And we have time management and other self-care workshops available. We also offer emergency appointments throughout the day. And I am going to turn it over to Tom to speak a little bit more both about our emergency services and our crisis and triage management offerings.
Yes, thank you, Patricia. So historically, the Counseling Center has offered what we call urgent appointments on a walk-in basis. And with everything being currently online, unfortunately, we're not able to offer that exact service. However, we do have staff like myself and 3 others who specialize in what we call crisis and triage, who are always available during the operating hours that we're open. So any student who's experiencing distress and needs to talk to a mental health professional right away, they can call the Counseling Center and request to speak with someone. And then we'll have people available to manage those situations by phone. And that could result in them getting an appointment for that same day, or we can make arrangements for them to enter into services as quickly as possible. If a student were to call our office after the hours that we close, what would happen is they would be routed directly to the Champaign County Crisis Hotline, which is a 24/7 locally operated crisis hotline. So students could always call us after hours and still get routed to a mental health professional at any time. So in addition to students who might be in distress themselves, similar to the question earlier about if you're concerned about a peer, that is also something that we do. We call that consultation. So if you are concerned about a lab mate or a friend or someone else who's also a student, you could call and ask to speak to a counselor about your concerns. You wouldn't necessarily have to become a client of the Counseling Center. We could have a phone conversation about your concerns, that particular situation, and we can help you brainstorm how to approach that. And that might involve us reaching out or maybe speaking to our colleagues at the Dean of Students office to put our heads together to see how we can best support that student. So I would encourage you to call the Counseling Center if you have any further questions about our services. We're happy to speak with you. And one more thing I'd like to bounce it back to my colleague about is we do have a liaisonship with the College of Engineering that might make things convenient for you all.
Yes, and those appointments can be made through the engineering department. I offer 2 hour-long appointments twice a week on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So they're half-hour meetings with students. And our services are free of charge. If you've paid the student health fee, you are entitled to all of the services that we've been describing. So there's no charge to students at any time for counseling services. And again, the liaison hours can be arranged through Kira, who works the front desk at the engineering department.
What if a student doesn't have health insurance through the university?
They don't have to. Okay, so this is a common confusion. Thanks for bringing that up. They are entitled with the student health service fee, which all students pay. So that is different from the student health insurance, which is a separate charge. So the student health services fee covers services at McKinley and other things that are involved, but it covers your counseling services as well. So any student who's enrolled pays that fee. It's a nominal fee. And it is different than the student health fee for student health insurance that the university offers. So you don't have to have the student health insurance to have the student counseling services.
Does that also respond to that, the question by Emily about students who were not charged the health service fee due to non-residents in the CU area, especially this semester?
So students who are online only, let's say, and they do not pay the student health fee, unfortunately, would not be eligible for our services. However, they're still welcome to call us, and we're happy to speak with them for a consultation to help them locate providers in their area. I should also mention that currently with all of our services online, for legal reasons, we're restricted to only seeing students who are located within the state of Illinois. But if students happen to be outside of the state, they can still call us. And again, we'll work with them to help them troubleshoot and find providers close to them.
Yes, we can always offer a one-time phone consult.
Okay. We have
And
a
yes,
question.
is confidential. Will any mental health problems be brought up? No, we would not share anything that we learn about a student with anybody without their written permission. That would actually be illegal.
Yep. And after a period of time, all counseling records that, for example, the counselor keeps private notes are destroyed after a period of time as well. So it is completely confidential. Students have to sign a release for us to discuss their cases with anyone else.
And real quick, if you want to go to McKinley for mental health services, you do not need to see us first. They have therapists there as well, and also physicians and psychiatrists if medications are being sought. So it's not necessary to get in touch with us for a referral. You can contact them directly to schedule. And if we needed to refer for long-term counseling, McKinley, just like us, are unfortunately limited in our scope. So we would refer to providers privately who might be able to work with the student based on their insurance and other factors.
Let me address the other question about evaluating screening professors on a regular basis for their mentorship, or if you feel like maybe your advisor is not being appropriate with you or asking you to do too much, then yeah, you should come talk to me or to Bruce about that situation, and we will take it with confidence. We will not share with anyone else. This has happened many times where a student has come to us with a concern about their advisor. We keep it between us, and we try to evaluate what's going on and rectify that situation. So we want to make sure that you, the students, are protected. All right, any other questions for our folks from the Counseling Center? If not, I think we will thank you both for coming to talk to us today about this. I'm going to move on to the next part of this colloquium, and that is dealing with we're talking about the Graduate Student Climate Survey we conducted this spring just to see how folks were doing. And we conducted this survey, and here's kind of a breakdown. Move the screen. Here's kind of a breakdown of that. We want to thank Mary Alice Wu and Don Owens who helped to put this together and to work this. We had 208 respondents to the survey, which is a large number, pretty good number for us. Around 30% of people responded. And in that survey, we had a list of questions where you could answer, you know, on a scale of 1 to 7 or 1 to 5, your agreement, and then a chance for students to offer some feedback. And we had a lot of feedback, actually. We're still going through it. You imagine 200 people responding and giving us different amounts of feedback. So we're still trying to go through that survey and understand what it all means. But I just want to give you a few little items of that. I don't have time to go through everything. And we cannot release all the results of the survey because there is some confidential information that people wrote into some of the responses. So we still have to go through that. But I just want to give you a few of those results and just kind of highlight some of those. So for example, here, some of the first few questions were how you feel connected to either the university as a whole, to the ECE department as a whole, to the grad student community as a whole, and even to your research group. And I just highlight the red because that represents the percent responses into each category, whether it's not connected at all, not very connected, moderately connected, very connected, extraordinarily connected, right? And so we had a range of responses, of course. And connected to the University of Illinois, well, you know, it's kind of moderately connected is kind of the mean, right? Right there at 3. And I guess that's to be expected. I mean, you're probably more connected or should be more connected to your home department and to your research groups and so forth. And I think that's what we saw with the very next one. We look at the ECE department. Folks feel a bit more connected to the ECE department than they do to the university as a whole. I expected that folks would feel more connected to the graduate student community in ECE. So I was a bit surprised when that was a little bit worse connectivity than to the department and even to University of Illinois. So that shows us that we need to do some things to improve our graduate student community have things and events and socials and so forth where people feel like they're a part of it and connected. And so we're definitely going to be working on that. It's kind of difficult to do that during COVID times, of course, because we're all separated and we're not meeting in person. And so hopefully we'll be able to do something even in these times. And then once we get back to normal, spring, I hope, I don't know, we can do more stuff. But it definitely has shown to us that we need to work on building our grad student community a bit more. And it looks like folks feel pretty connected to the research group, although there's still, around 10% that don't feel very connected. And that's a concern. We want to make sure that people are connected in somewhere. Otherwise, if you don't feel connected, you feel isolated, you're less likely to succeed, and problems can arise, right? So we want to make sure people are connected. Now, the next one was how supported do you feel by the university as a whole, the EC department, your advisor, and fellow graduate students? And again, I was a bit surprised. I thought we would be a bit more feeling supported by our fellow graduate students, but it still looks like there's some room to grow there with our fellow graduate students. And so hopefully if we can continue to build our community for graduate students, then maybe folks will feel a little bit more like they belong and like they're connected and can help each other. As it's set up, as you know, in ECE, we have a broad range of different research areas. We have folks that do their research and kind of live in ECE, where Bruce is. You can see his background there. We have folks in Beckman Institute, where their research groups are, people over in CSL, where the research groups are, HMNTL, and then, other places, even maybe even Siebel or NCSA. So we have a lot of graduate students spread out across the engineering quad. And so that makes it difficult sometimes for RC students to feel like they're a part of one single community. So I think we really need to work on that. And I think the survey has shown us that. Still, there's some concern with again, the support of advisor. We want to make sure that everyone feels supported by the research advisor. We realize that this can be a really big source of stress when you don't feel like your research advisor is supporting you. And so let's make sure that we work on that. If you're having troubles, again, you can come to Bruce or I, and we can discuss it and try and work that out. We do want to advocate for you on those sorts of things. We also ask about stress levels. And here's the scales for the stress levels here. Describe your stress level with regards to being a graduate student: manageable, moderately manageable, slightly manageable, neutral, a little overwhelming, moderately overwhelming, and very overwhelming. And again, it was looked like about half of folks felt like they were a bit overwhelmed by stress at times. And that's why we understand that there are different demands for research and for courses and even TAs and so forth. So we understand those demands, and it becomes stressful. So that's why it's important for us to be aware of ourselves, what the resources are for addressing stress and addressing mental health. And again, we're a community. We want to make sure that we see other people, that we're connected to other people, so that if you see someone who may be struggling and may be isolating themselves and may seem stressed out, that you can reach out to them, or at least make other people aware that there may be a struggle going on there. We want to make sure that everyone is taken care of in our community, and we want to build a stronger community. I have here other questions along these lines in terms of the different statistics. And instead of listing each table, I just give a mean value here. Obviously, the lower the mean value, the better manageable these things are, the stresses are. In terms with the advisor, was not too high. It seems like the most stressors were reaching milestones like the qual exams or prelims or defense, which, you got to kind of understand that's, those are big milestones. Those are big things that you have to do. And I understand people being stressed about that, but those are short-term things, and hopefully you complete them and then you move on. There are research deadlines that folks get concerned about. And of course, classes and homework seem to be another source of stressor. And recently, issues related to COVID-19. Obviously, that shut everything down, and that's kind of caused additional stress to students. So again, we want to make sure that you all know that we are available for that. Oh, here's the different different answers that you could put there. Number 1 is no stress, 2, a small amount of stress, moderate stress, very much stress, or 5, an intolerable level of stress. So these are the mean scores for these questions based on this scale right here. Sorry, I messed up the scales. So overall, it looks like we're managing our stress, but there are a few points where we want to make sure that we are aware of that and trying to address it. Like I said, we had an overwhelming response in terms of actually sharing specific items. I could have gone on for a few hours talking about the different responses, but a few just kind of came out at me. I see there was some concern. So some of these were spoken about by several different students. So several students were concerned about courses being canceled from the roster, sometimes at the last minute, and again, the lack of coherent community for PhD students compared to other departments. I guess there's a perception by some that we don't have a good, strong community here. And that's not what we want. Again, we are the largest department on campus. We've got almost 700 graduate students in normal times. So we want to make sure that we're able to reach everyone. Was some complaints from a couple about being insufficient onboarding. And again, the lack of community for graduate students, and also inadequate support for underrepresented students in our department. And we certainly don't want that. So we want to make sure that everyone feels welcome, that everyone can see themselves as a part of this department. Also, there was some concerns about the mental health issue and the infrastructure to handle that. So again, we're trying to show you what's available, all the things that you may not have been aware of that are available for students to address their issues and that they might be having, right? And some concern that graduate students in the department don't have protections. And again, I want to stress to you that Bruce and I can talk to you if you're having struggles with your advisor to make sure that, that we can address those situations. There probably a lot of the responses were about issues with their advisor. Some people have great relationships with their advisors. Others, as you can see here, may have some difficult relationships with their advisors, and we don't want things like yelling and insulting of graduate students in public to be going on. That is not acceptable by anyone. So if that's happening to you, please talk to us about it, because we need to put a stop to that. It's not right, and you deserve respect. Your advisor should be supportive, not dismissive, and should take the name to be able to pronounce your name. Also, concerns about some graduate level courses not being of high quality and not being taught well. So hopefully we can address some of these issues. These are just a smattering of some of the things that came out from that, and just wanted to share some of that with you. Let's see if there's some questions here. Oh, my audio is cutting out some. Sorry, when I lean back. If you want to schedule a meeting with myself or Bruce, then the easiest thing to do is just to email, and we can set up a time to meet in confidence together if you have an issue that you need to discuss. All right. I don't see any other questions, and our last part of this is we want to have a short panel with some of our graduate students here, and I'm going to stop sharing the screen, and that panel is going to be facilitated by our EC grad folks. Corey Snyder is I think, chair of the EC SAC graduate right now, and he will be facilitating some questions to some of our members here who've been graduate students for a while and can have some insights there. So I'm going to turn this over to Corey Snyder. Corey.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, so we've got a few panelists here and some prepared questions for them. So we want this panel to be kind of an opportunity to be a part of a conversation about graduate student mental health and well-being, to kind of make this session a little more personal, to destigmatize some of these conversations. And as we go through these questions we have prepared, please do post your own questions in the chat. We do want to open this up to audience questions. So to get started, let's have the panelists introduce themselves. So Sakshi, I'm gonna ask you to unmute. So hopefully that'll let you talk and you can introduce yourself. Are you able to unmute yourself? Okay.
Did it unmute me?
Oh, there you go. Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, if you want to introduce yourself.
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Sakshi Srivastava. I'm a PhD student at the University of Colloquium, Champaign in ECE. I work with Professor Jennifer Bernhard. I'm in her research group working on antenna design. I did my undergrad at Illinois too, so I have my bachelor's in 15, master's in 17.
Cool. Grant?
Hey everyone, I'm Grant. I'm a third-year grad student. I'm working with Professor Alon Shomaroni. We're doing bioinformatics, computational biology. Yeah.
Okay. Anna?
Hi everyone, I'm Anna. I'm a third-year grad student. And in applied probability theory, and I'm looking forward to this panel.
And then Shri?
Hi, I'm Shri. I'm also in my third year. I work with Professor Oelze Milenkovic. We do things on DNA-based data storage and stuff like that. So basically coding theory. And I'm looking forward to talking with all of you as well.
Great. All right. Thanks everyone for being here. So I'm gonna just start off with our first question. I think it's a nice general question to get us warmed up. What things do you find most stressful about graduate life? And let's start with Grant.
Yeah, what I find most stressful about graduate life, definitely a big one is time management and knowing when to take breaks from research and work. It's particularly hard when, like, a lot of grad students, what we do is like tie our self-worth and self-esteem to the amount of progress you've made in your research lately. And it's tough to like take a break when you don't feel maybe you've made a lot of progress and you're stressed out. That's probably the most stressful thing I'd say about doing research in grad school.
Does anyone else want to jump in?
Yeah, I have something. I felt that when I first came to Illinois, I was actually switching fields. So when I started off, I had to take a lot of extra classes. And then I would sometimes talk to my peers who were already like launching into like full-on research projects. And it was like kind of difficult for me to like connect on the level of telling them, you know, like while they were talking about their projects, I would talk about plowing through homework problems. But it was kind of important for me to like put everything into perspective and remember that we're all like on different phases as researchers and all have like different journeys and tracks. So yeah.
I'd like to jump in here and maybe echo a little bit of what Grant said. For me, the guilt cycle is very real, and it's something that I put on myself. So there's a point where you end up taking a break, but then the break goes a little longer, and then you're guilting yourself about it. And then you finally get back to work, and somehow it's not going in the pace you'd like it to go. And then you're guilting yourself more because perhaps if you didn't take that break, that was that long. And somehow in all of this guilt spiral, you're never going to be as effective as you could have been if you were just able to compartmentalize that particular side of yourself. And figuring out how to do that is like, that's something personal and it takes time, and we all have that struggle. So yeah, that's something that's very real for me.
Sakshi, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I do want to add to that. I think the most stressful part for me is just adjusting from an undergrad mindset to a grad mindset, where the only goal I had in undergrad was getting into grad school and getting the statue. Whereas in grad school, it just, a different side of my personality comes into play, where I am thinking about my job in internships and how my parents are doing as I'm getting older and they're getting older, and my personal life and how that aspect of my being is. I think for me, that came into play a lot more than it did in undergrad. And maybe it's a manifestation of just being in this phase of my life and not in the undergrad phase of my life. But managing that and grad school and the expectations I have from myself became very challenging. And I cannot emphasize how much I feel when we talk about lack of community, because I, for sure, I know, went from running into people almost every other block while walking between my apartment and the ECE department building, like ECEB, to not knowing people on campus anymore, which is where I am right now, because just how grad school is, there is, you will meet people, but they all graduate at different times. And somehow it will end up being that your friends have graduated or they have moved to a different school, and you're all of a sudden by yourself and you're not taking classes anymore either. And now how do you go about making those connections? And if it can happen to someone, which I like, I want to acknowledge that I know I'm pretty social and I did my undergrad here, so I already had a strong support system. So if it can happen to me, I wonder how it works out for other people who may or may not have that kind of support system coming into grad school to begin with.
That's a really good point. Yeah. So now on the flip side, moving from things that we find stressful, what parts of grad school do you find most rewarding? We can start with, let's start with Sri.
All right, so I'm the kind of person who, if I see an A grade, I'm going to order pizza. So I'm going to take joy in the little things. So that's, I mean, you could go into things like, okay, is that a good thing to do? So it's what helps for you, right? So that smaller things help, but then the problem right now is I'm done with my coursework. So where's my pizza coming from? Mm-hmm. And then you have things like the bigger things where you're in that stage of research where your advisor trusts you to help out with a proposal or something, and then I order more pizza. You know, it's just so good to feel trusted. And then it's probably just half a paragraph in a 5-page report, and maybe it gets through, maybe it doesn't, but I would say, you know, pay attention to little things, and over time, hopefully it snowballs.
Who wants to jump in next?
Yeah, I'll jump in. So the question is, what parts of grad school I find most rewarding, right?
Yeah.
But concretely, I mean, I love making connections, meeting people who are passionate about their work and similar things as me. I enjoy like talking with grad students about like very academic things. Some things you probably wouldn't find outside of, you know, an academic setting. More abstractly, I think something that's very rewarding is kind of like reflecting on skills you've gotten better at, improved over the years of grad school. For me, like dealing with work stress, I think I've gotten a lot better at that in the past 2 years, especially like coming out of undergrad. Didn't know like how to manage my time and didn't have a great work ethic. And now I'd say I've improved on that a lot, and that side of it's very rewarding.
I definitely found that something that was rewarding for me was having like a better perspective of like what's like what opportunities are available out there and what I want to do. Because when I first came to grad school, I didn't really, I guess I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And so through like being on like a really large campus here and being exposed to so many different like types of not only careers, but also like I don't know, through friends and whatever, what people are doing, I got a better idea of what I wanted to do and also made some lifelong friends through that. So that was really fun and also really rewarding. Yeah.
Sakshi?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I think the most rewarding thing for me is teaching. Of course, I thoroughly enjoy learning more and more about antennas, and that's super fun and exciting. But in addition to that, I think teaching was something, even through the most difficult times in grad school so far, when I taught, I felt so good about what I was doing and the kind of impact I was having, because it was just a reinforcement of the idea that even through difficult times, I'm able to have an impact and I'm able to share my knowledge with other people. And that in itself was very empowering to me. So one of the most rewarding aspects, in addition to, of course, learning about my field and learning about antennas, was being able to share that with other people and share that, see other people actually have that, light bulb go off in their heads and their eyes start shining when they understand something you're talking about and it clicks in their head. That feeling is very rewarding to me.
Yeah, these are all good points. I especially like the point that Shri made with celebrating your accomplishments. I think that I personally don't do that enough. I think that often I find when I have something positive happen, I view it as being maybe fleeting or very temporary, whereas when things are really difficult or I'm struggling, it feels almost inescapable. So it's important to reward yourself. So we only have a couple questions left, or I guess maybe we should just do one question since it looks like we're running low on time. So yeah, we'll go through one more prepared question. If there are any questions from the audience, please do share them. But I think the last question we want to ask is, what would you say to a friend who is skeptical of well-being or counseling services that are available to them?
I think I can go first, if you guys can hear me.
Yeah, sure.
Can you hear me? I think it's a very delicate and sensitive, subject. So one blanket, advice, I don't want to call it advice, but one blanket suggestion isn't particularly I would go in with, but I think I can say how I approach it. And then if that resonates with anybody, great. I think of it, well, I go see a doctor every time I go home back to India, and I get my blood work done. I go to a dentist. I, get a physical done. Then why shouldn't I do that for my mental health as well? Because that's very much part of me. Again, this may or may not resonate with other people, but that is something how I rationalize with myself. And I think there's this idea that you should seek, some kind of resources after some kind of incident or some traumas that you're trying to pursue, but you can essentially go to the counseling center and ask about resources that may be available regarding just toolkits in your, tools in your toolbox that you want to develop. So if you are someone who just wants to figure out how to get better at time management or how not to procrastinate, and I'm not saying that cannot be traumatic for some people, maybe it can be, maybe it is. So, but for me, it's not something that is traumatic, like learning how to be good at not procrastinating, but there are resources available to just process, to get better at it. So just thinking of it as something you do for your well-being. But you work out, you eat healthy food, you sleep, you talk to somebody when you feel like you need to talk to someone, or you want to have more tools in your toolkit that helps you keep your mental health strong. So that's how I approach it. And again, this is a very delicate and very sensitive topic, so I don't want to impose this on anybody else. If you see value in in the way I do it, perfect. If not, I'm sure there are enough resources that you can look into and try to hone that. And the other thing I want to mention is practicing self-compassion and empathy for others. Self-compassion, just a quick example of what self-compassion can look like. For me, it is me telling myself, hey, I know it's been 3 years, but if I feel upset about it, even today, I'm not going to shame myself. And empathy for others means that nobody should come to me and tell me, hey, it's been a few years since you went through this difficult thing that you had to experience. Why are you not over it yet? Saying that is not empathetic. So practicing self-compassion for yourself and practicing empathy for others, not trying to judge others' feelings, not trying to invalidate it, not trying to question it, allowing other people to be with who they are and supporting them through it is empathy. And that's something I hope we can inculcate more and more in our being as students, as part of the ECE department. So those are my few words on this topic. But again, very delicate, very sensitive, and must be treated with that much care when talking about it.
Yeah, that's a really good answer, Sakshi. Yeah, I understand this question itself is a little bit pointed, but that's a great answer. And just to echo what you said about practicing self-compassion, I think that's, like, I can't emphasize that enough as how important that is. And I think another way I would point it out is that I think for most of us, if let's say a close friend or a family member came to us saying that they were having trouble with something, they wanted advice, or they were really struggling, we would often be very compassionate to them. We would maybe not necessarily sugarcoat things, but we would try to help them. We'd want to support them. And I think that we're often our harshest critics, and that extends to our own internal dialogue. And so I think it's important to sometimes ask yourself, am I just saying this to myself, or would I actually, let's say, give this advice to a friend? So that's a great point. Does anyone else want to jump in on this?
Okay, there's something, probably not a popular opinion. This is something that I say because of my experiences. There are a lot of cultures across the globe where significant amount of stigma exists when it comes to mental health and the help that one requires at certain times. So it's important to keep in mind where your conversation is going. And if you realize that too much passion is getting into the conversation, it's important to maybe agree to disagree, or put a pause, put some sort of distance between you and the conversation and reevaluate. And that's a lot better than just going head straight into it. And over time, perhaps a lot of these stigma will go away, even with your close friends, even within your community. But time cannot be, you cannot forget to factor in that time that's required. And as Sakshi said, there is a lot of, this is a topic of great sensitivity and must be handled with a little bit of perspective, and try not to get into who's right and who's wrong when you have a conversation about mental health and counseling in general.
Yeah. Great. These are great answers. I think we need to wrap up now. So I want to thank all of our panelists. Thank you for joining us and having this conversation. Obviously, I wish it could have gone longer, but still very happy with it. So I'll turn it over back to Professor Oelze.
Yeah, so we just want to finalize things today. I think we've had a good conversation, and I hope this conversation continues with your fellow graduate students and even with us if you have issues. There were a couple of things privately chatted to me, some questions and some concerns, especially with regards to if you're having trouble with your advisor, the fear of retaliation if you were to come to the administration, to myself or to Bruce about a concern with an advisor. And I just want to reassure you that we've handled cases like this before, and we work to make sure that there is not going to be retaliation for reporting abuse by an advisor. We don't want these things to happen. It's not an acceptable situation. So please feel like you can come to us if you need to, if there's not a good situation going on with your advisor, if there's some sort of abuse, we need to stop that. And it has unfortunately happened in the past, and we've taken care of it or tried to take care of it, so, and handled it. Are there any other last minute comments or questions? If not, looks like our time is up. I just want to thank everyone for being a part of this, and I know that Corey and the ECE-SAC are working to put together different things through the semester, so look for that. And hopefully we can build a stronger community together. So thanks everyone for being a part of this.
Thank you very much.
And thank you to our participants.
Yeah, thank you so much for having this session, Professor, for everybody.
Thank you, Sakshi.